For Poland Daily News, I'm Phil Goss. The international community cannot remain silent, said Polish President Andrzej Duda at the United Nations Human Rights Council. The Polish head of state called on Belarusian authorities to abandon the policy of oppression in favor of dialogue, and the Russian authorities to release Alexei Navalny.
It must be underlined that following presidential elections in their homeland, thousands of Belarusians took to the streets to exercise their basic democratic rights. The scale of repressions of the Belarusian regime that followed was more than alarming. Sadly, Belarus is not the only country in our region whose authorities follow a path of political repression against its society. This has been clearly presented by the Russian Federation in massive detentions of peaceful protesters who had gathered to express their support for Alexei Navalny and his co-workers. They are not known by their names, and their fate remains unknown in many cases, but we can judge from experience that it might be tragic.
Foreign ministers of Poland and Ukraine, Zbigniew Rau and Dmytro Kuleba, demand a halt to the construction of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. In a joint article on the Politico website, diplomats emphasize that the U.S. may play an important role in blocking this harmful project. Poland, Ukraine, the Baltic states, and the U.S. are against the completion of the Russian-German gas pipeline under the Baltic Sea. If operational, this project will increase Europe's dependence on Russian gas and expand the Kremlin's influence on European politics. Last Friday, German media reported that Russian ships have resumed construction of the gas pipeline off Rügen Island. The U.S. State Department has decided not to introduce new sanctions. The main Nord Stream 2 investor, Russian company Gazprom, said that 94% of the pipeline is done. People entering Poland may have to produce a negative coronavirus test result. Otherwise, they may face a quarantine. Such a regulation is expected to take effect at the end of this week. It is possible that, due to the third wave of the coronavirus pandemic, Poland will face further restrictions. Minister of Health Adam Niedzielski says that COVID-19 infections will peak between March and April, in addition to the change in border crossings where, without a negative test result, a 14-day quarantine will be imposed. A change in mask regulations is expected. However, as for the quality of the mask, it will have to be cotton or surgical or more advanced. Like FFP2, we will rely on the recommendation of the Medical Council. The main sanitary inspector emphasizes that limitations might be difficult for some people, but they should protect society as a whole. We must remember that all these restrictions serve to protect human health and life. Young people are often asymptomatic carriers of the virus. It seems the young people are spreading coronavirus the most, and they bring the virus to their parents and grandparents, so taking responsibility for their relatives until they're vaccinated seems to be the most important thing now, in order to reduce the infectivity and limitation of this virus. It's been a year since the epidemic started in Poland, and society is tired of these restrictions. Each new lockdown made us tired, and for some of us it's been more burdensome. I have on my mind all the people living in big cities which cannot go to restaurants and meet friends, something which is part of their lifestyle. Experts show that we are close to controlling the coronavirus epidemic and that vaccination is a necessary step. The Polish Ministry of Health announced that nearly 25,000 tests were performed yesterday and confirmed 3,890 new cases of coronavirus. 17 people died due to COVID-19. The number of people infected with coronavirus has risen to over 1,600,000 cases, and 42,188 people have died from COVID-19. Over 2,715,000 vaccinations against COVID-19 have been administered in Poland, over 1,175,000 first doses, and over 930,000 second doses. On Sunday, 15,000 vaccinations were performed. In a controversial story from Wrocław, Dr. Tomasz Greniuch, acting head of the local branch of the Institute of National Remembrance, turned out to be an activist in a nationalist movement. Worse, the media published recent pictures featuring him doing a Bellamy salute. Mr. Greniuch was relieved of his duties today.
Pan Dr. Tomasz Greniuch
Dr. Tomasz Geniuch resigned and I accepted his resignation. He is no longer acting head of the Wrocław branch of the Institute of National Remembrance.
Dr Tomasz Geniuch nie pełni funkcji dyrektora oddziału Instytutu Pamięci Narodowej we Wrocławiu.
There are at least 222,000 Catholic churches around the world, and in almost every one there is a painting of the Divine Mercy with the inscription, "Jesus, I trust in you." This painting is made according to the vision of a humble Polish nun, Sister Faustyna. These days, we commemorate the 90th anniversary of her first vision. The academic painter Professor Eugeniusz Kazimierowski made the picture in 1931 under the guidance of a humble, uneducated nun who said she had received instructions in a vision directly from Jesus Christ. For the Catholic Church, it took several decades to accept this vision and the worship of the Divine Mercy.
To objawienie, które miało miejsce 90 lat temu, rozpoczyna prorocką misję.
The revelation that took place 90 years ago began Sister Faustyna's prophetic mission. I think that it is no coincidence that Jesus begins the message of God's mercy precisely with the revelation of the image. The image speaks to us more than the word. When Father Sopoćko, while painting the first picture, asked if there could be an inscription, "Christ the King of Mercy," Jesus said no. It had to be, "Jesus, I trust you." Jesus demanded that these words be an integral part of the image. The painting is in the Divine Mercy Sanctuary, here where Sister Faustyna's tomb is, where all her spiritual heritage is deposited. There is also a painting. It is this image that is the most commonly known around the world.
Jest znany na całym świecie. To jest najbardziej rozpowszechniony obraz Jezusa zmartwychwstałego.
Jan Lityński, a 75-year-old Polish politician, died under the ice of a frozen river while trying to save a drowning dog. Lityński organized student strikes in March 1968. In the 1970s, he was active in the Workers' Defense Committee, then in Solidarity. After 1989, he was a member of Parliament, minister, and advisor to the President of Poland. For Poland Daily News, I'm Phil Goss. Good night.